wired this? What sort of sadist do you have to be to come up with a design like this? Today on the channel we are looking at something a little bit different. We're going to do a how-to on how to swap the pickups on a semi-hollow guitar. The reason being that friend of the channel Bobby wants me to swap the pickups from this Westfield E7000 into his Burny semi-hollow. The reason for that is that when he uses any distortion, the Burny goes absolutely nuts, but he loves the pickups in this Westfield because they're much more controlled. So, first thing we're going to do is remove the strings. These are old strings and the hardware needs replacing anyway. Now it may surprise you to learn that I've never actually worked on a semi-hollow before, so this is a first for me. So this is going to be interesting. First things first, you're always going to want to protect your finish. So there's just this rag that I use for cleaning guitars. And I know that we're going to need to undo this. We're going to use this little spanner just to undo this nut. Once it's loosened, you can just pull it out. Next thing that we need to do is remove the pickups and the rings. All the hardware on this guitar used to be gold, but as Westfields do, the gold plating just wears off. So we will be replacing all of this. Now I think I'm going to be replacing it all with a proper chrome, rather than going gold again. So as you might be able to tell, things are a little bit tight with the wiring. Someone's been messing about in here. So we need to do some fishing around. And this is where the difficulties of semi-hollows comes into play. What I might do just for educational purposes is remove all of the electronics, even though that's not something I was wanting to do today. Because I know for a fact that fishing around inside these guitars is very difficult. But if you have to, I'll develop a method of doing it and show you how. Don't forget to protect your finish. Starting to think a low ironing board wasn't the best tool to use for putting the guitar on today, because my back is killing me. Don't get old, kids. One of these, the Music Nomad Octopus, is always going to be your best friend. Nylon spanner essentially, that doesn't really kill your finish, unless you're really careless. I'm not sponsored by Music Nomad, but if they want to reach out, I'll be more than willing to Do an advert. There we go. Finally came off. Right, so they've done some interesting wiring here. Let's take off this electrical tape and figure out what. Okay, this is interesting. This is essentially supposed to be a Les Paul type wiring, but it doesn't look like it. We need to desolder the pickups from the volume pots. What the hell has happened here? In fact, I'm just going to cut that one. That one's free. Which one's that? There's the bridge pickup. And yeah, I'm just going to cut these because we are going to do a fresh rewire when we sort this guitar out. At the moment, I just need the pickups. These are all still attached to the ground wire, which is connected to the bridge post in the bushing, so we are safe to put these back without losing them. This isn't a necessary step, but what I like to do is put the washers and the nuts back onto the existing pots. Even though we're going to be replacing all of this, it doesn't matter so much, but it's nice to know what they came off. And it also means it's one less thing that you need little baggies for everywhere. And if you're anything like me, you've got just random washers and nuts everywhere, and used pots, used switches, and sometimes they're a particular size which you don't always have a nut for, but if you keep the nuts on them, then happy days. Okay, that is that done. We can put these back inside the guitar so that we don't lose them. Now you may be wondering to yourself, why are we taking the pickups out of a Burny, typically a much more expensive guitar, and replacing them with the ones from the Westfield? Well, I'll show you. So I've got this plugged into the amp at the moment. We'll turn it on. Okay, so on a clean setting, everything's cool. But switch on overdrive and you get uncontrollable feedback. The neck pickup's not quite as bad, but the bridge pickup, the slightest noise is just going to come through. So there's your reasons why, but I'm here for solutions. So first things first, we need access. We'll take the scratch plate off. Which is a nice painless affair. I do like the look of it without. And I know that his strings are fairly new on this, so we're just going to move them out of the way if we can. Love it when a plan comes together. Ew, filth. let's undo the surrounds. These have actually got really nice flush head screws. Countersunk for my pleasure. This is time consuming. How are you all doing? Have you had a good day so far? There's a lot of YouTubers who would ask you that just to get engagement, but genuinely curious how your day's been. Just thought we'd have a chat. My day's been alright so far. It's a Friday. I had a bit of a lie-in this morning. Don't like how those have gripped in. Ooh. State of this. Bring in another tool, try and get these screws out. There we go. Alright, so screws are out. Let's take the pickups out of the rings. What do you call these things? Are they pickup rings, pickup frames, pickup surrounds? Happy rectangles? This is taking forever. I'm being more careful than usual because I don't want to lose one of these springs into the body, because that's exactly the sort of thing that would happen. Now you may be wondering to yourself, hey Tim, what's that really funky, expensive looking guitar maintenance table that you've got? It's an ironing board. Cost me about a tenner in 2008. Never did any ironing, but figured because it's an adjustable height, it's perfect for doing guitar maintenance. It's light, it's manoeuvrable, and it's got a soft surface. That's the pickups out. Some horrendous glue work in there on this tenon joint. But nice and interesting is to see how they've actually cut away the wood core. However, the guitar itself does feel like it's balsa wood or something. Not a great feeling. Right, let's take the switch out. Protect your guitar. Use the magical little spanner for things that aren't nuts. And I'm thinking they'll have a slightly different layout for these. But a much smaller hole to get through. Genius. Don't understand how anybody got their fingers in here in the first place. Which makes me think that it was built by wizards. Take the switch tip off just to try and gain some extra height. Oh, my spine. Oh, thank God. Right. Good news is that these pickups are actually attached to the switch itself. I think. Oh. No, they're not. That would be too easy. Shit. Oh, I didn't want to do this. Just put that in there so that we don't scratch the finish. These metal top knobs are an arse to work with because there's not enough to grab onto to just pull upwards because they're shaped like a bloody cone. What I do for removing these is bring your cloth under, wiggle it, keep turning the pot so that you're actually wiggling it from all directions, and eventually, after a bit of a tug, it comes off. Pro tip, always make sure you find every one as it comes off. The last thing you want to be doing is remembering where they went. Oh God, I hate this. Right, all being well, we should just be connected to the volume pots. The question is, do we have enough lead to the tones to pull them out? I can't get in this thing! You know when you're doing something and you're just like, why did I even start this? We need to keep this safe. This is the neck pickup. And the good news is, that it actually seems to be connected all the way up here. That's good because it means we don't have to go ferreting around in there. Unfortunately, the bridge pickup is not quite as clear what that's attached to. It appears to be this volume pot. Which is wrapped around the ground wire. Brilliant. It's fantastic work from Burny there. Who wired this? What sort of sadist do you have to be to come up with a design like this? What we're going to do is we're going to make things a little bit easier for ourselves. Instead of trying to solder directly to the pot, we are going to cut the wires here with a little bit of length, attached to the existing wires, and then we've got a bit more leeway to play with. So I just need to remember that that is the bridge. Was that attached to something? I feel like it should have been attached to something. Apparently not. So we'll cut that. And before that drops in, I'm going to get some tape just to keep them together and near the surface. That will do. Alright, so everyone remember for me, that's the neck, that's the bridge. Cool. I'm going to have a quick break. So, I'm back from break, and all I've done is strip the ends of these wires, and now we are going to take the old pickups from the Westfield to put them in. So we'll start with the neck pickup. This is always your best opportunity to give the pickups a good polish. Just get them cleaned up. Take off the years of filth. So this is the neck pickup. You can tell because it says neck. If there wasn't a label on it at all saying what pickup it is, all you need to look at is the pole spacing, and you'll see that the neck pickup has slightly narrower spacing to it. And then we just feed through the existing holes. And in a spot of luck, that's actually come upwards rather than me having to fish it out, which is great. Next we need to take the pickup rings from the Burny, and the way to tell which one we're using for the neck, it's going to be the slimmer one. That tends to be the way it goes for any guitar that's got a neck break angle. You always put the thinner side to the neck. Okay, so once you've got the screws seated, you can start just bringing them up. I like to get the pickups about flush with the rings, just for the initial installation. And if you need to create a bit more space, you can do just by bringing the pickup up a bit. Obviously every guitar is different, so some of them the pickup routes won't be as deep. And put these screws in. You don't want to put them in too tight because that's how you crack plastics, and you can also pull through the thread through the wood. So you just want to go until you meet resistance. And that's one happy pickup. So we know that's the neck, we know that this is the neck. So all we have to do here is make sure that we've got enough on the pickup wire to attach it to the existing wire, which we do. Don't worry about this one, this is just for coil splitting, but that's not something we're going to worry about today, so these are always joined together. Now we need to take this pickup ring out. And then we need to check again which side's the thicker side, which is this one. And then we need to put that to the pole side. I'm quite fortunate that these pickups have exactly the same thread as the old ones. I've had cases before where the pickups themselves had a different thread, which meant that I was searching for ages for the right sort of screw to put in it. That's that one back in its house. So we'll feed it through. And we'll use my wire snippers, just because it's got a grabby end, to pull that through. Once again, we need to raise the height of the pickup just to seat the ring properly. And then we can put these screws back in. Just snug it up, it doesn't have to be tight, it just has to grip. And once you've got those down, just finger tight, just have a look around it and make sure that there's no gap between the ring and the body, which there isn't. This was neck. But we can take that off. Can do the same with this side, with the ground side. And what we're going to do is we're going to re-add a little bit of heat shrink tubing just so that we don't have any grounding issues. So I've got this by the roll. It's dead simple to work with. All you do is you take a small length, snip it, and then put it on the wire that it's going to go to. Put it on this side. And you want to make sure that you do this before you solder it. And that can just stay down there for now. Get another piece. Doesn't have to be long. And that can go on the red side. So we know that this is the bridge wire, this is the neck wire. We remember from before that these are the wires from the old bridge pickup and these are the wires from the old neck pickup. Should be just a simple case of connecting them together and then we're done. Now I'm actually going to sit for this portion of the video so that I can get closer to what I'm working with. Because when working with soldering irons, you don't want to get it wrong. Now, one thing you do want to do with soldering irons is make sure that the sponge isn't dry. You want that to be wet. Fortunately, it's raining outside, so I can just get some free wet from the sky. So now that we've got our free sky wet, you'll see that that's much more pliable. I've left a little bit of dry on there just so you can see the difference of a dry and a wet sponge. I'm not presuming you're idiots. I'm just presuming that some people will need to know. When soldering, you want to cover the paintwork, because the last thing you want is little bits of hot metal getting onto the finish. We also need to add some heat shrink to the old neck connections. Okay, so heat shrink's on. We take the neck pickup, just double check that is the neck pickup, although it should be fairly obvious. And we need to chop off some of the old solder, because that's a bit clumpy for my tastes. And we can be doing this while the solder station is heating up. Going to need some solder as well. So first thing I'm going to do is just pair these with the corresponding colours. Now be warned, if this is your first time, a semi-hollow is probably the hardest one to start with. Okay, so we've got connections. All we need to do is make sure that we've got a clean soldering iron. Just tin the ends, again being careful to protect the paintwork. And then just feed the solder. The reason that we have the sponge is just to clean the tip as we go. Clean the tip after every pass. Make sure your soldering iron is secured. And give that a little tug. We appear to be soldered, which means we can then just flatten it out. Put the heat shrink tubing over the top of it. Apologies for the awful angle, but there's no good angle for filming this. And then once you've got your heat shrink tubing in place where you want it, you shrink it with heat. If it's a little bit baggy, I like to give it a bit of a squeeze, but be careful, it's hot. is not going anywhere. Do the same. Ow. Same with this one. And that should now be a secure connection, and the sleeve's not going anywhere. And that can be fed back in. We'll worry about that in a minute. And we move on to the neck. A little bit easier because we've got more space to work with. So I like to just take the two ends of the wires, twist them together, tin the tip of the soldering iron, and then covering up the finish again, and then we just make sure that that is all soldered up. Clean off the iron, secure it, and that looks like a good connection, which is exactly what we want. This one's going to be a little bit trickier because we've got a shorter length to work with. Nothing's impossible, just awkward. And then tin the tip, and then just make sure the heat's dissipating into the wire. And that should be good. Clean the tip while it's hot. Keep these things shiny, because otherwise they're useless. And when you're done with it, make sure you switch it off. Okay, so we take this heat shrink, pass it over the wire, do the same with the black side, and then just heat them up. That looks good to me. Now, before we cinch everything back up, we need to do one very important step and make sure that we're getting sound from both sides. I hate this. So, as you can see, we're getting sound just by tapping on the poles in the bridge position. In the neck position, we're getting very little, but I think that's because the pot's turned down and I can't actually... Oh, can I get to the pot? I can't get to the pot. Christ. It's bloody ground wire again. How are you supposed to do this? I can't get my finger past this part. All I need to do is get enough grip on it just to turn it up. And I can't physically reach it. There we go, we've got sound. I can hear it coming through the amp. And fantastic. That means that we're getting signal to both pickups. And if we flip the switch into the middle position, if I could reach the switch, we should get both. Fantastic, that's exactly what we're after. Right. That was an ordeal. Bob, I hope you appreciate what I've done for you here, because I never want to do that again. However, I do still have to put some pickups back into the Westfield, which I've ripped all of the electronics out. It was a genius move on my part. The upside is that it's got bigger F-holes. What I might do to make life easier for myself is put a cavity plate on the back. We might have to look at that for another video. Now, my back is killing me, so I'm not going to put these in place today. I'm going to go have dinner with my wife, because I've been neglecting her today to do this. And I'll come back tomorrow to get these in place. Right, it's a couple of days later, and I'm actually going to face this and deal with feeding these bastard components out of these bastard holes. Let's do it. So, we've already established that basically the F-hole is way too small for my fingers. I can get a little finger in at each end, and I'm trying to sort of essentially chopstick my way through this. We can move things about with a screwdriver a little bit, just to spin things into the right position. You've got to be careful not to detach any of the soldering. What's really aggravating is I'm so close, I can see it. Whoop. There we go. Right, I need to hold on to that, because if I let go, then it's game over. Which means you've got to do everything one-handed while being in quite a bit of pain. That's one done. So you need to hold on to the bottom of the pot while you're screwing the threads on. Is that the best one? Yeah. So the reason that you need to hold on to the bottom of the pot while you're doing this and tightening up the nut is that you don't want the pot to spin all the way around. That will put too much pressure on the wires. Just going to tighten these up as best I can. Right, that's good. Now we move on to the other pot. Or should we do the switch first? As long as we can move that pot out of the way, we should be able to do the switch without any real issues. What I will need is my giant tweezers. Just to pull the switch into a better position to flip it up. Which I can't do from here. Ooh, this is promising. Alright, I need a way to extract that now. Oh, if I can just get underneath just enough to grab it from above. Oh, there we go. Just about grab that. Christ. This is where I wonder where I've put the nut for the switch. Let's get the shiniest side up. I'll do for now. I'll adjust that if I need to later. Right. Let's get these wires tucked away. Last pot wedged into place. There we go. Okay, so this wasn't as bad as I thought. So before we say this job's done, we need to check through the amp that we've not lost any of those connections while we were fiddling about. Screwdriver to the bridge. Excellent. That's what we want. Now the other thing that we're going to do is we are going to see if we get any squealing on the distortion channel. It's not howling at me yet. That's a great start. I'm going to give the whole guitar a polish while I'm at it. Fretboard seems surprisingly okay, so we're just going to put the strings back in place now. Now that we're tuned up, let's see if we get any squealing through feedback, which should be greatly reduced now. Success! So, while I may have not done it to the usual methods, and there are easier ways to get the pots out through the holes, which involves tubing and things like that, or bits of string, my method meant that I didn't have to go over to the other side of the studio and get anything, so that's great. And that is, I guess, how it's done. It's one way of doing it. It might not be your way of doing it. And as I said at the beginning, I've never done one of these before. So this is the method that I used. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people in the comments saying, oh, you've done it wrong. You should have done it this way. You should have done it that way. Well, you weren't here. Where were you when I needed you? So, yeah, a little bit different. Something that I've never done before. I've done for the first time on the channel, which is quite interesting. But it's good to know that it works. Switch tip's gone on the floor somewhere. I'll find that once I've moved everything out of the way. And there we have it. So feel free to tell me how I did it wrong, because this is the internet and that's what we do. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.